Hey there! Today I'm going to talk about this ink. Private Reserve Tanzanite. I know that my camera doesn't really focus up close, but there isn't that much to see in this bottle. Now I have to say I kind of like this bottle. These are the new Private Reserve bottles. I think they're great because there's nothing to them. It's just a glass bottle which has a huge, very wide opening. I've also found that if you tilt them they can actually leak, so be a little careful. But if you just put them there, they should be fine, and they're very wide. The opening is this wide, so you can stick any pen in there. Why Tanzanite? Well, yesterday I was on Fountain Pen Radio, and I asked Eric and Dan, I asked the audience. No one in the audience replied. There were two options. I'd either do Tanzanite or I would do Diamine Bilberry. Bilberry is a color that is related, so I'll probably do that one next. But Bilberry is very dark and almost bluish purple, whereas Tanzanite is, well, not a purplish blue, but it's definitely more on the purple side of things, I would say. I really like the color. I think it's a great color. It's vibrant, it's intense, but it's not very light. It's a very dark color, and yet it's vibrant somehow. I love that. Okay, so just a quick word about the name, Tanzanite. I'm just going to read this from Wikipedia because there's no way I can even, going to attempt to memorize this. Tanzanite is the blue-purple variety of the mineral zoisite. I'm assuming it's zoisite, not zoisite. A calcium aluminium hydroxysilicate, which was discovered in the Mererani Hills of northern Tanzania in 1967, near the city of Arusha and Mount Kilimanjaro. It is used as a gemstone. Tanzanite is noted for its remarkably strong trichroism, appearing alternately sapphire blue, violet, and burgundy depending on crystal orientation. Now isn't that funny, because that's exactly what happens with this ink, although I'm not sure about burgundy, but the other two definitely. So, I got a bunch of pens here, you know them by now. They're all inked up, and I think I should just show you what the ink is all about. So I hope this is going to be useful, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye. Okay, so here we go with Private Reserve Tanzanite. I think this is a very fascinating color. So we'll start with some fine writing. So at this point I think this looks a little bit like Violette Pensée by Gerbin. Move over, fine nib, there we go, with medium. Excuse the handwriting, but I'm really leaning away, one arm around a tripod leg, so bear with me. Broad nibbage. Now you can really see how dark this purple is. This may be Violet Pensée-ish, but this is not. It's a very dark purple that almost leans toward blue, if you ask me. Okay, then we have an italic nib. Dog. I know you couldn't see that, but it says dog. I'll upload the stills later on, right? So you can just check them out at your leisure. Okay, so that was that. Let's do some passes with the 6mm Pilot Parallel. Give us a 1, a 2, and a 3. There we go. So we have 1 pass. Soon to be 2, and soon to be 3 passes. Meanwhile, in Gotham City, let's do a bit of flex. Did you hear that sound? The dropping sound? That was Lord Merlin, my hamster, dropping down a bit. He's getting a bit old. Sometimes he drops down his cage. But don't worry, he's never hurt because there's a lot of straw in there. Hay, actually, I should say. Just an intermezzo. Okay, so this again should show you how dark of an ink this is. It's a very dark purple. You see that really nicely there, I think. Now let's just do one of these curly things. Right, there we go. OBKB, on to the medium. I'm moving around the paper a bit more, but I've zoomed in more. So I was hoping you could see the writing better. Just let me know what you think about that. Medium. Private Reserve Tanzanite. Yeah, there you go. Not a lot of flexing going on there. Whoops, that was off screen. Sorry. That's the downside of zooming in. Try to pay more attention to what I'm doing. Broad. Italic. Alright, well this seems to have dried up quite a bit. Yes. I haven't put a desk light on this, but it's about 32 degrees Celsius here today, so there's quite a bit of sun. I'm hoping you can really see this, but lighting remains an issue. Second pass. Second pass. Come back to those in a second. Oh wait, let's take this pen yet again. Let's check out the waterproofness of the whole thing. The T for Tanzanite. Bit of writing. Okay. Just wait until that dries. Let's have a look at this. I think that's still a bit wettish. Yes. Okay, well then just let's move on with our scorecard. Pen. There we go. So what have we got here? We have a color. I would say that is dark purple. I wouldn't call this a blue. I'm not sure what my camera is telling you it is. It may look like blue, but I think it's too dark for that. Shading. Well, what do we do with the shading? There is some shading going on, but it's a pretty dark ink, so it's difficult to see. So, although I can see some shading, I would say mediocre. I wouldn't buy this ink for the shading purposes. Flow. I would say flow is excellent. I've even heard some stories of people who had very dry pens and they put this ink in, and for some reason, just rearranging stuff here, sorry, for some reason that pen started to flow better with this ink in there. I don't make any claims or anything, but you know, just so you know. So the flow is very good. Let's do another pass here. This looks dryish. There we go. So you see how dark this can actually get. This is not entirely dry, but this is. So what I'll do is our water test. Just take a brush, put on some water. Now isn't that fancy? Looks pretty cool to me. And since this is not entirely dry, you know what? I'm going to cheat a little. Use a bit of blotter paper there, otherwise this will take a long time. It's a pretty wet ink. So, there we go. Water. Just put my plastic sheet under that. You didn't really see that probably, but let's just leave that there for a second. Just grab a tissue to clean up later. Okay, so we have this. We have feathering. What about that? Well, currently I'd say excellent. I don't see a whole lot of feathering going on. Drying time. Whoops. I'll write down longish. I'm not going to time that, but you've seen it takes a bit of a while to dry. Of course, that was in very large nib, very wide nib, but okay, I think it's safe to say that this ink does take a bit of a while to dry. I'm just going to get rid of that water. see what we have left. Okay, so that gives me the same image this just gave me. The ink will definitely run out a bit, will definitely lose some of its color, but it seems to be relatively water resistant. There will be discoloration, but I can still read the writing there, and I can still read the writing here, so that's a good thing. Okay. Waterproofness, therefore, I would say is okay to good. Not excellent, but it could have been a lot worse. Cleaning, I would say very good. Well, maybe even excellent. So far, I've never had any problem with cleaning this ink from my pens. Bleed through. Bleed through. You know what I'm trying to say, right? Even if you can't read it. Well, let's have a look then. You know what? Let's not have a look. Let's first do a writing sample on some Copier paper. There we go. This looks a little bit disheveled. There's already some stuff here, so this is another ink. Okay. Nice bit of plastic. Oh, here we go. Okay, so there we go again. Fine. Medium. This is not actually my best handwriting, but I don't want this to take up hours of your time, so I just do this a bit quickly. It's just to give you an idea of the color of the ink, right? That's what all people say, trying to camouflage their handwriting's quality, of course. Broad. It gets increasingly nasty as I get around this point, but I'm really leaning in there, so it's very difficult to write normally there. Then we have an italic. The quick italic, Brown Fox. Jumps over the serious nibbage. There we go. Geek. Doesn't apply to any one of you, I'm sure. See the feathering? But this is pushing it to the extreme, right? I mean, this is Copier paper, 6mm nib. Well, there you go. I think that looks rather artful. Don't you love it when people look at a modern art masterpiece and they say, well, it's interesting. Well, I guess this is interesting too. So, let's have a look at the bleed through. That's what we all did this for, right? As to feathering, see a whole lot more feathering. Well, maybe just a little bit, but I really don't think it's that disturbing, actually. So as far as I'm concerned, that looks pretty good. I like that. So we get some feathering there, but as I said, that was really wet ink and a really wide nib. Bleed through. Well, there's bleed through on my notepad, so to speak. Not all the way through, I hope. No, good. A lot of bleed through there, but you can't really take that seriously, right? I mean, that's calligraphy on Copier paper. I do see some shading here, and you know, just possibly every now and then a little bit of bleed through. So the ink on very cheap paper will bleed through. Now, if we look at the other paper I used, just tear off that page there. My biggest fear is to rip the entire page in half. There we go. So that's Rhodia paper. Turn that around. See any bleed through? There's a little bit of shading, but okay, come on. I mean, that's with those three passes. With the regular writing, there's no real shading or bleed through. That part too, but that was both wet and a very wide nib. So I think it's safe to say that the bleed through on this ink is very good. You don't really notice that unless you start doing very strange things on pretty cheap paper. So, there you have it. Private Reserve Tanzanite, one of my favorite inks. Just look at how nicely that dark purple color comes along. I really like it. Excuse me. I really like it. I really like the color. I think it's a very nice, intense color. When I need a purple, this is what I often go for. So I think it's a very cool ink, and I hope you agree. If not, that's fine too, of course. Leave me a comment, tell me what you think about the ink, and tell me what you think about the zooming in and the lighting, etc. This is a lifelong learning process, I'm afraid, so it may take a while for me to get this right. But I did my best, so I hope this was useful, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.